In a bull market, I realize I have to play in a bull market arena. And the bull market arena, your champion on the other side would be opportunity costs. And this ultimately has led us to accelerating a decision that we had in our roadmap at some point, figure out a clever way to kind of bring some of the best teams together in the space to achieve what I think is the ultimate deterrent to that champion on the other side that we're battling against, which is opportunity costs.
All right, guys, welcome back to Fuel for Thought. Today we have a very, very special guest, Luca, CEO of Pudgy Penguins. I think he needs no further introduction. You probably already know him by now, and if you don't, it's time to get out of your cave. How is it going, Luca?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. It's towards the evening for me. It's the morning for you. Web3 is global, and that's what makes it awesome. That's why I don't sleep much at night as well. But that's the price to pay to be in an exciting industry with you.
It's an exciting industry that it is.
Yeah. So, well, guys, we don't do this usually when we have a podcast episode, but I'd like to introduce you today to a little bit of an icebreaker. Something also, it's a fun way for you to get to know Luca a bit better personally. So, Luca, I have a couple questions for you. So they're short questions. You can answer with short answers, and there's probably 6, 8 of them. Are you ready?
I'm ready to go.
All right, Luca, what's your favorite crypto?
Bitcoin.
Yeah, knew it. What's your favorite dish?
Sushi.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Okay, we'll have to go back to that then. I'm interested to know why. What's your favorite song?
Favorite song right now is the new Kendrick diss, "Like Us." I'm a huge competitor, and so I love a good rap battle.
If Pudgy Penguins is your favorite NFT project, I'm assuming so, which is your number 2?
Apes.
And if you had to define yourself in one word, what would it be?
If I could describe myself in one word, what would it be? Determined.
I think that's very fitting from what I've seen. So, well, we can go into, directly into floor price. That's something I like. It's not the thing that I want to focus on in this episode, but I think it's a good thing to start with because I've been amazed by the ability of Pudgy Penguins to 5x in the span of 2 years, while most blue chips are down 90 to 95% over that same period. So I'd be really interested to have your perspective on how you would explain this massive Web3 success. We've seen you build a brand, we've seen you reinvigorate a community, we've seen you do a lot of things really well. But what's your reading of this phenomenon?
I think you have to address the elephant in the room, which is kind of how you started that sentence, which is like floor price. A lot of people like to pretend that it doesn't exist. I like to live in reality and realize that it does exist. And it's probably a huge reason why people are here. And if you don't optimize for that in some capacity, you lose the narrative. And this is a narrative-driven market. And so it's my job as the CEO and the custodian of the community in some respect or capacity to make sure that we are on the top of people's minds at all times, or at least the times that I think are relevant. So you'll kind of see me do this thing. It's like an ebb and a flow. We'll go like on 2-3 month sprints, then like 2-3 month hiatuses, then 2-3 month sprints. The idea is you can't be at top of mind 24/7 because then it becomes, fatigue kind of sets in. And then ultimately your impactful moments don't become as impactful because you're always top of mind. And so I'm a big believer in ebb and flows and a big believer in just living in our reality and understanding that when I spent millions of dollars on NFTs, it was because I wanted the floor price to go up. And pretending that is not what people want is, I think, a recipe for disaster. Now, it can't be the thing that you live and die by. Again, it's not a variable that I can necessarily control. All I can do is put my eyes and put myself in the shoes of a trader or a collector. know what they want and know what they're looking for and deliver that to the best of my ability. And hopefully floor price follows. So far, so good. And the intention is to continue building with that mantra in mind. Uh, but I think for us, we have a couple edge cases at Penguins that I think put us in a unique scenario. The first one is just how battle tested the community is, how much FUD they've been through. Two, the IP always just needed someone to help proliferate it. I think the IP is a legacy IP with or without me. I think the community is a community of over performers and overachievers, and so a lot of people are thinking I optimize for two things. One I can't really control, which I'll mention in a second. One I can. One is, one thing that I optimize for is the demand that I can create for new entrants or crypto curious people to fall in love with the NFT and fall in love with the brand. And then the other part I can't really control, but it also is an interesting factor, is when you're looking at a community, the performance of that community in the regular world, whether that's through trading or their own entrepreneurial endeavors or the companies that they build, ultimately in some shape, way, or form translates back to the floor price, because the performance of those community members in some shape, way, or form will translate over into the Penguins. Meaning, if Penguins are really high performing traders or entrepreneurs or builders, as they continue to see success, they will take a percentage of their profits and, put them into Penguins. And so the idea is, I have to create demand from people who are not in the Penguin community. And the Penguin community does a really good job at kind of sustaining that demand by, contributing back to the ecosystem as they continue to succeed. And so somebody said something, but, you know, Penguins, somebody tweeted and said, Penguins will win not because of how many new people Luca brings in, but because the Penguin community will just outperform all the other communities. And by that, it sounds a little arrogant, but I'm just sharing that because I think it's an interesting way to look at things. This is why having a crypto base matters and a crypto native base matters. I believe Pudgy Penguins is up there, if not probably the biggest NFT community with the most native crypto base. Probably be us and my ladies. I think that'd be hard to argue otherwise. And so you'd have an interesting dynamic where it's just like, look, I feel like we have a great understanding as to how NFTs succeed. I'm a huge supply and demand maxi. I say this on every interview. I create demand while keeping the supply tight. It's a recipe for success. And if the Pudgy Penguins keep sharing alpha within their own group chats and spreading the love within the community, then the community will continue to succeed. And at the end of the day, they're a high integrity group, and they know that they attribute some of their success obviously to being a part of this community. And I think that kind of cross pollinates and creates a really interesting recipe for success. So obviously those two variables, the fact that we've made some significant strides and pretty meaningful headlines over the last couple of years. We've executed on what we said we were going to do. We did that and executed on that vision with significantly less resources than than the next group, in my opinion. And we put our money where our mouth is, right? We bought this thing, and we've tried to embody the cadence of giving and not taking. I think that's really unique in NFT world. I think very few projects can say that. And it's been an interesting edge case for us up until this point. So you just kind of put all those pieces together, and I think that's why you're seeing the success that you've seen up until this point, and why you will continue to see the success over the coming years.
Yeah, you talked about attention cycles and how do how you retain the state of being top of mind in terms of being an NFT project, and being a Web3 marketer myself, I really believe in prize being one of the greatest vehicles for just like attention and marketing in Web3. So you've succeeded in achieving that. I have a question for you on this specific topic of attention. I always think about what's the ideal balance between attention and fundamentals, and it seems that Pudgy Penguins has achieved attention and being a top of mind while delivering on fundamentals. But there's other projects that are not so strong in fundamentals but are having huge momentum right now. So like, how do you view this relationship between attention and fundamentals, generally speaking, in the NFT space? Let's focus on the NFT space. And then specifically at this moment and state of the market?
When dealing with tokens, so NFTs and just regular tokens, uh, I've come to realize and accept that attention is the most important variable, and pretending that it's not will be a grave error for those that I think don't understand that. Uh, Now, the problem with just having attention and having nothing behind it is it ultimately will lead to a collapse, right? And so we've seen that through, both in the NFT land and both in the crypto land. Uh, and so I think if you can kind of supplement and do both well, it's a recipe for success. And so what I've kind of found is narratives are kind of easy to create in the space. It's easy to kind of make them catch wind. But being able to have that underbelly, that when you look under the hood, there's something real and tangible, I think is the difference maker. And I actually think that's why Pudgy Penguins has seen so much success. Is I think we have a really good understanding on how to take over the timeline, how to create attention, how to get the whole entire space, both in NFTs and crypto, talking about us. Uh, and then I think when people begin to object as to why Pudgy Penguins is this or that, uh, look no further than a peek under the hood to see that there's very few projects, both in crypto and in NFTs, that have ever done what we've done. I think we're one of the few use cases and examples of what it looks like to build a consumer crypto brand. I think we are one of the few that has a real tangible go-to-market strategy that is not just predicated on price going up and price going down. And we're doing what I think fits the IP really well. And so I think you look at all of those things. Again, I'm an attention maxi. I think that will ultimately win the day. And this is where I think a lot of projects fall short. You'll see a lot of projects that I think have a slam dunk in fundamentals, but they just can't get attention for the life of them, or at least the right attention. And ultimately, it doesn't translate into the floor price. And that seems to be the bigger problem. I actually grew up, I felt like I was pretty neglected. So I've actually, people don't know this. This might be the first time I say this publicly, but I actually was kind of an attention whore growing up. And so today I catch myself sometimes, for example, Pudgy Penguins was on a hiatus for the last 3 months, basically ending and end of April. And I was like, okay, we did everything that we needed to do. We're ready to really just take over the timeline again. We need attention. We need attention. And I kind of just got like really fervent and passionate about that desire for attention, because I just know how important it is. And so it's really what I spend a majority of my time studying. I think it is the most important thing. The problem is when you play the attention game, you make one wrong move and the entire thing will collapse just as quickly as it kind of grew. So making sure that you have the right fundamentals behind any attention that you can garner, I think ultimately creates a recipe that very few people in the entire token space have.
Would you say that price is the main driver behind attention, in the sense that it doesn't necessarily have to be price appreciation, but the perspective price appreciation? I see this in the space today. It seems that if you want to drive attention, you got to give some substance to people to speculate that there will be some kind of value appreciation on the asset that you're marketing. So would you say that price is the main driver, or is it that more fundamentals are the main driver behind the attention you're generating?
I think pretending, again, just living in reality, price appreciation, both in tokenized markets and financial markets, are the best marketing, at least to people. Again, Web3 is one of those few where I guess finance and community kind of cross over in a very meaningful way. So you kind of see a bigger explosion in this respect. But I tell this to people all the time: the best marketing that you can get is price going up. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but we announced Walmart and we were down 5% on the day. We still got a ton of marketing and a ton of eyeballs. The thing that you want to optimize most from a founder perspective to kind of achieve those goals, not only for your company, but more importantly for your community, is really coping and seething. If you can make people on the other side cope and seethe for not being a part of your community. That I think ultimately is one of the biggest drivers. All publicity, I think, is good publicity in some respect. I think you found this in crypto. One of the most shocking things that I found is how powerful forget culture here is. I mean, I've just seen people make astronomical mistakes and then just come back in a really meaningful way, and the community forgets a month later. Uh, Thankfully, I don't think I've been in that egregious of a spot, but the best marketing is price going up. It'd be hard to refute otherwise.
Yeah. You were hinting at the relationship between a project doing well and then the community doing well as well. And, it's important to keep your community fed and, happy. How do you, like, what's the recipe for you between brand success and NFT success or community success? Because we've seen that sort of dichotomy between those two things in many different projects. There's like the brand strategy and execution. How do you make your brand, your character brand, your lifestyle brand big, especially in Web2? That's one of the playbooks that is being acted upon by many different NFT projects these days. How do you make your brand successful and translate that into something that, where your community feels incentivized to contribute and feels rewarded for being part of whatever you're doing outside of the community as a brand? What's the recipe for that in your opinion?
I think first and foremost, you have to realize that the NFT variable to this, the NFT and the brand are either going to succeed in amazing ways, in ways that I think the world has never seen before, in a time frame that I think the world has never seen before, or they're both going to fail miserably. There is no in the middle. There is no the NFT winning and the brand failing, and there is no brand winning and then the NFT failing. It just doesn't exist. Firm believer that it doesn't. And so when you look at it from that lens, I think what you really have to optimize for is the success of where I think this all started from. And so if I were to pick one priority outside of the other, is I want to make sure that the NFT and the community is happy, because ultimately I think that will translate into real world and brand success. One thing that I think I really strive for on the brand side, and really how I believe it complements the Web3 side, is you really want to create a brand that people are proud of, right? And that people are proud of representing. And I believe we've done a really good job at that. When you look at, Pudgy Penguins' success, the people who believed in it, the people that stuck through, not only did they go through this like tumultuous, roller coaster prior to my acquisition, we went through the bear market together. We set expectations. They held through the winter. We round tripped our moves a couple times. And as we continued to execute and hit these milestones, we ultimately created a playbook and a way for these things to be built that I think wasn't the playbook prior. And we're executing it, I think, at a really high level. And so if I'm a holder of the Pudgy Penguin and I see people with their nieces and nephews and mothers and daughters and wives, hanging out and playing around with Pudgy Penguins, having their kids on the screen playing with penguins, content that's impacting people in a meaningful way, billions of views, going to my local Walmart to pick up some things. I see the penguin. I go to Target to pick up some things. I see the penguin. I mean, there's very few brands, I think, in the space that yield that type of honor for supporting, because the story of Pudgy Penguins is not necessarily just a story about us. It's a story about what we're doing for the space, and each holder is playing a role in that. And somebody tweeted this, and I said it a little bit earlier, but holders just want to feel smart. They want to feel the smartest. They want to be wearing that PFP, and when that PFP is doing well, other people are looking at them on the internet and being like, this guy's smart. He's in early. It's signaling something subconsciously that I think accelerates them in their digital life in a way that I think is really hard to quantify, but is super meaningful if you really think about it and try to quantify it. And so from our perspective, a lot of what we're doing is, one, fulfilling the expectation, and two, just really trying to make our holders proud. And I think at a minimum, regardless of the price, right, the Pudgy Penguins, I think even I underestimated a little bit, yields a lot of respect in the space. because again, if you look at the space is pretty hollow across the board amongst a majority of projects, and not all. There's some amazing projects that I think are doing even more important things than what Pudgy Penguins is doing. I mean, it'd be hard to argue to the contrary. But when you see the lane that we're carving out in an industry that didn't even look in this direction, a lot of people have a lot of respect for the Penguin, regardless of floor price. They had this respect at 3.5, 4 ETH. They had this respect at 20 ETH. They'll have this respect at 15, and hopefully they'll have this respect, at 100 or 200, if God willing we get there. But it's more than just something that I think people are just trading and speculating on. I think there's a level of integrity that comes with that brand and that profile picture that I think very few brands have.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Success sometimes makes people pray for your downfall. And it seems that um, a lot of the space has a lot of goodwill towards Pudgy Penguins. And when I say the space, it's not just the NFT space, but beyond the Web3 space as a whole, crypto included. And I've seen actually a lot of moves, or intentional or not intentional. I'll be curious to understand the background there. A lot of moves of Pudgy Penguins towards that crypto sphere as well. I think there's some kind of partnership with Van Eck, or endorsement at least. And I see a lot of Pudgies, being repped by crypto founders, or DeFi people. So was that intentional, not intentional? And then how did you actually break out of this NFT sphere, where projects like CloneX or Doodles don't seem to have broken out, to this extent?
Well, a majority of the work was done prior to my acquisition, which was the history of Pudgy Penguins is it was the NFT that crypto Twitter really bought and participated in because they missed out on punks and apes. And so penguins were kind of like the cope and seethe mechanism to the success of what punks and apes were, because a lot of a different demographic, had collected those and got in on those. And so, Penguins was the first time that the stuff was mentioned on CNBC and really started taking off in the crypto Twitter realm. Funds were deploying capital into Penguins. Notably, Three Arrows Capital was responsible, I think, big time for 100 ETH Penguin sweep. You got people like GCR, who was really early. Uh, a majority of crypto Twitter was able to kind of buy Pudgy Penguins as their first NFT after missing out on punks and apes. And so the people that remained really come from that culture. And I think, secondarily, what I think we were able to do on top of that base in terms of bringing in, more people, is when you actually look at the mission and the end goal that Pudgy Penguins is accomplishing, it's a very necessary goal for the entirety of crypto. And so what I mean by that is Pudgy Penguin success is not just Pudgy Penguin success, nor is it just NFTs and Web3 success. It's taking a very taboo and intimidating industry and making it familiar to the everyday consumer in a way that's never been done before. And so if you're a really passionate, crypto whale or builder or investor, there's something about supporting the Penguin that is, in my opinion, super high integrity, because it's not just the idea of how do I return a financial return on investment on my purchase, which obviously I think we've done a good job at, optimizing for, and we're kind of the outlier in the space of the last 2 years. But it actually is a signal that you are supporting something that I think is bigger than price going up and price going down. And you are signaling that you believe in a crypto universe where the family is involved, where the younger generation is involved, where people from all walks of life are not excluded. And you believe in something bigger than just the amazing casino that it has become. You believe in digital ownership. You believe in the symbolism of being able to build $1 billion brand with 10,000 early believers who owned your tokens. You believe that these things are more than just narratives, tokenized narratives on exchanges. You believe in the tangibility and what digital ownership and that TAM actually brings. And so there is this new little entrance, in my opinion, of crypto philanthropists, as I kind of like to call it, or people who want to see this space succeed in a way that I think on its current trajectory is not really headed. We all have ambitions that it's heading in that direction, but I think if you really look at current results and current products that are moving in that direction, we haven't really gotten there yet. And so when you look at the Pudgy Penguin story and collecting of the NFTs and being a part of the community, on one side of the spectrum, again, I think we've done really well, performing for the return, uh, and I believe we will continue to do so. But there's a bigger story here than just how much ETH can I make on my Pudgy or my little Pudgy or my fishing rod. And I think that story is everything that I think crypto wants to embody and wants to be if you really look at the space holistically and the problem that it solves. I think Pudgy Penguin solves a lot of those problems. I mean, just look at the story from start to finish, from 18-year-olds in their college dorm basement drawing penguins, to them minting it, to it being a disaster, them making a lot of money and changing their lives, but then that kind of imploding, to a community member stepping up and buying the project for $2.5 million, for saying, hey, we're going to build this brand together, working with them in lockstep to do it, setting expectations and delivering on it, not taking from them, but giving to them, adding more, a social strategy that has never been done before across multiple different platforms, taking IP that is digital, alchemizing it, saying every time one of these sells, you're going to get a royalty in perpetuity, paying each one of those holders tens of thousands of dollars. Every toy that we sell comes with an onboarding mechanism that gives you your first ever NFTs via a custody wallet solution, and 100,000 plus people have now bought in Pudgy Penguin toys at Walmart or Target, scan the QR code, and now are on chain in some capacity. They don't even know it. They have NFTs. They don't even know it. The story of that, and that's just like a really brief version, is the story of the little guy. It's the story of the underdog. It's the person who said, against all of the guys who made billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars, the titans of the industry who raised from all the corpo VCs, got beat by the 25-year-olds with some hustle and the community that got shat on for months at a time at the peak of the 2021 bull market. I mean, if that is not crypto personified, and the story of why I think a majority of us are all here to participate and to live and to experience stories like that, then you might be here for the wrong reasons. And there's an audience and a base that I believe really looks at that and sees that for what it is and says, yeah, man, I'm buying these penguins. I'm supporting these penguins. It can go to 1,000 ETH, it can go to 1 ETH. Doesn't really matter to us. This is what this is about, and we need more of this. And I'm going to put, rather than just supporting from it, for it from the sidelines, which I think is pretty lame. They're being like, look, we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to support what we believe has to be the new chapter in crypto, based around consumer and bringing new people in.
Yeah, that's a strong story. That's for sure something you want to rep, and I understand what you're explaining here, and I want to touch a point before that. I'll say to the people watching, guys, we have interesting stuff to talk about towards the end of the episode. By the time this episode comes out, there will be some announcements made by Pudgy Penguins, and so you'll have some more context and details in this video. But before we get to that point, bouncing on what you said, it's interesting because you were in the first part of your answer, at least, referring to the fact that people want to endorse Pudgy Penguins publicly and make it their personal brand, at the face of their personal brand as a PFP, because it embodies this sort of like consumer crypto narrative where, we want to make Web3 consumer facing and actually, welcoming to those guys in the Web2 through awesome UX and, no friction and characters and not just numbers. And that makes a lot of sense to me. It resonates a lot with me because I have a background in Web2 brands, right? Web2 companies. And that's why to some extent, I'm supporting Doodles with my PFP, for example. But what's interesting is Pudgy Penguins have had that ability to, be endorsed by those guys in the DeFi space, for example, in the Infra founder space, right? And Doodles, when I look at who wraps Doodles, it's mostly people from brands or from creative fields, right? So, but you could argue that people within the infra space and the DeFi space might also be interested to wrap a doodle and say, hey guys, like I support what you're doing in terms of like lifestyle brand building and trying to onboard the masses as well, which is the playbook they're going for. So what is the one element that, in your opinion, has made it possible for Pudgies to go for that space while Doodles remains in a more creative brand and lifestyle space?
Doodles is doing an amazing job, just truthfully speaking. And I talked to Julian a lot. Julian's probably, out of third-party founders in the NFT space, probably the one I'm closest with. Huge respect for what he's done and what he's been able to accomplish. And I actually think he's doing an amazing job with Doodles. There's a two-faceted answer. One, there's a reason why we bought Pudgy Penguins, and I knew it's because it had a base that you either have or you don't. And I knew that this base in crypto was the most powerful base. And part of that is an edge case that I think is hyper unique to Penguins. And I can't tell you how to translate that, which would be 50% of the problem. The other 50% of the problem is I don't think Doodles does a good job speaking to that crypto native community. Now, that's not easy to do. It takes a very unique approach, one that is not really traditional and comes a little naturally for me because I think of my age. One thing that I was really shocked by was I went to Dubai recently and I went to Crypto Fight Night. Shout out to Rookie and the rest of the crew who set that up. Absolutely phenomenal event. Highly recommend buying a ticket to Crypto Fight Night and participating in that. Amazing entertainment. But I walked down to the floor, which is like the VIP section, and I'm meeting basically, half of the, I hate the term, but influencers or KOLs in crypto. And they're all 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. They're my age, basically, right? Within some sort of arm distance. And so it's really easy for me to speak to that audience because I am that audience. They're all a bunch. I was actually really surprised. For some reason, I thought everyone would be older, especially because I've been following these guys for a long time. I was actually really shocked when I started following Loomdart when he was like 18. And I was like, what? Fast forward like 6 years later or however old, but he was super young when I first started hearing about Loom. And there's a lot of people that's the case. And I think that is just a natural edge case, speaking to an audience and being able to interact and build relationships to that audience. I have the ability, this is probably maybe one of my secret alphas for all the founders. But I spend a majority of my day building relationships, right? And the relationships that I'm building with the people that basically are moving and influencing, where capital is distributed in the space are my age. And so I'm not just like building relationships to go build relationships. I'm just generally hanging out with people that I would hang out with, when I close the laptop and I'm done working for the day. And then I'm talking about what we're doing and I'm figuring out how to communicate to them in a way that I think very few can. And that's why you also kind of see it with like Frank too. Frank's an elite marketer, but he speaks to that audience in a way that I think very few can. And I think probably one of our two edge cases. And so, on one side of the spectrum, I think 50% of it is Pudgy Penguins just naturally got all of these people in peak NFT FOMO, and Penguins were the kill of choice for CT to get their feet wet in NFTs. And a lot of those people stayed within the community. And the second part is just being able to speak to that demographic that, unbeknownst to most, is actually a really young demographic. A majority of your favorite people, and this is not even NFTs. Like I'm talking pure crypto. These guys, these crazy usernames with tons of followers, they are a young group, way younger than I think most people realize. And then there's like the geezer and the dinosaur group who are probably like the kingmakers of them all that were really in 2015, 2016, and they've got their own little clique, but they're kind of like all semi-retired now, right? They're not really influencing things like they once did, because they made it, and rightfully so. So this new generation that really yields a lot of the influence, there's a bunch of 28, 29-year-olds sitting behind these huge Twitter accounts.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point about networking and creating relationships, I've been repeating that to, people I meet throughout the bear market. For me, that was the biggest opportunity of the bear market. You were not going to make 100x on your like bets here and there, but you were going to be able to meet people that were building interesting stuff, that sticked around, that believed in Web3. And this is really like the big value unlock for me, throughout the bear market. And holding NFTs in general is, it's not just the price appreciation, it's who you get to meet by being part of this wider NFT community. So I hear you on that. And I'd like to touch on funnel models. I think you've built some kind of funnel model that I'm aware of, and I'd be interested for you to detail it through, Pudgy World and your toys and everything. And how would you evaluate the importance of a funnel model for a lifestyle or a character brand? We see Azuki building some sort of funnel. We see Doodles building a funnel. We see Pudgy Penguins building their funnel, and it always involves some kind of character or a hook, something that gets people's attention, and then once they start interacting with it, they get gradually onboarded into the tech, right? Without even noticing. So what is the importance of this funnel model for you at Pudgy Penguins? Do you think that your community is able to strive as a silo, or do you think it's important to onboard the masses so that your community can actually, strive on the long term?
A community that is a community of 100,000 people that knows what that NFT represents is powerful. A community of 10 million people that knows what that NFT represents is almost unbeatable. And then a community of 100 million people that knows what that NFT represents is the creme de la creme, right? And so it just becomes simple supply and demand. I have 8,888 NFTs. There's not that many, right? And so if I just keep the NFTs the same without issuing more, right, and segmenting liquidity, and I just concentrate liquidity in that one place as well as the little pudgies, right, there's not that many NFTs in totality. And if I get a 0.01% conversion on a million people, right, that's all I need. And so that number can even get even smaller depending on how many more people that I reach. I'm just a funnel max here. This just seems critically obvious as to how this works. I've been a believer of this since day one. Some people are like, oh yeah, he's talking, but this is just like this is like logic 101. I mean, small amount of digital collectibles, high amount of people loving and knowing the brand. Eventually, those digital collectibles will be really scarce, and as scarcity increases, price also appreciates. It's as simple as I
Supply and
think.
demand.
Yeah. The problem is people got greedy, and the issuing of new NFTs is ultimately has been the death sentence. It's just not, I think, how you make money. You got to make money some other way. And the funny part is I mean, there's just telling you on this interview, Pudgy Penguins here over the next month, and this is probably some alpha. We will have made tens of millions of dollars on grants, and nobody knows that, right? Again, these things are like on the brink of closing, and by the time this probably airs, they're probably closed. But I'm making tens of millions of dollars on grants. That's more than I would make if I minted an NFT collection and sent everything to zero. So I think what the NFT space has required was we just rewarded, really easy business models and business practices for a long time that hurt a lot of the community members. But I think you take a little bit of business acumen and ingenuity, You can make tons of money without taking money from your community, right? And I think this has really like been a huge focus for us is how do we just innovate on the business model and leverage what we have, which most community, most protocols in the space wish they had, which is community. None of these major L2s, L1s have any community. It's like a complete LARP. And we have it. We have it in a way that is, probably one of the best in the space, if not the best in the space. And so I think you just really have to look at this through a more sophisticated lens. And I think you can kind of get the results that you want. And so, funnels, I'm an internet marketer at heart. So this is like just how I think and how I live and breathe. You'll see this. We have a really big announcement probably a couple weeks after this airs, probably our biggest one yet, in regards to, I think, our final piece of the funnel.
Bigger than Walmart?
For holders, probably, yeah. I mean, Target and Walmart, I think, are huge for the brand, and huge for the IP. I think the one thing that Pudgy Penguins wasn't thinking about was the ecosystem and the crypto flywheel that we could create for our ecosystem. In a bull market, I realize I have to play in a bull market arena, and the bull market arena, your champion on the other side, if you're fighting, right? And I'm the penguin fighter, and on the other side, there's another fighter. That other fighter would be opportunity costs. So I have my penguin, I'm in the realm, and then in front of me is this big buff warrior, and his title is called opportunity costs. And so I have to fight him. He's the person. He's the person I have to fight. And this ultimately has led us to accelerating a decision that we had in our roadmap. At some point, we were able to do a really good deal and figure out a clever way to kind of bring some of the best teams together in the space to achieve what I think is the ultimate deterrent to that champion on the other side that we're battling against, which is opportunity costs. Bull markets are infamous for that. And so I have to make sure that I'm creating an ecosystem for our community that makes sure that when they do the math in their head, that there isn't a better place to park their Ethereum than in our ecosystem and then with the Penguins. So you guys will see that soon. Probably already said too much, but this is kind of a way and a final piece of the funnel. And what you've seen up until this point is, I believe conversion is a process, not an action. And so, I'm not anticipating people to buy, Pudgy Penguins right off the jump. I think when you look at something, and what I want the brand to do is I want the brand to speak to the inevitableness that is the penguin. And in reality, obviously the toys supplement a good way for us to make money and cover our bottom line and things like that. But to me, toys are marketing. And so a perfect example is, sure, I want to take people who know nothing about crypto and bring them down the funnel. That's going to happen through many years. I'm not expecting that conversion to be immediate. I'm expecting that conversion to be helped by bull markets and bear markets, and I will catch those wins accordingly. A perfect example is some dude was in Singapore recently, and he was at Time Zone, which is an arcade. And in the arcade, there was Pudgy Penguin toys. He went back home and he bought 50 little Pudgies and 3 big Pudgies, and he tweeted, he said, dude, I went to my local Time Zone in Singapore and I bought 50 little Pudgies and I bought 3 big Pudgies because, why wouldn't I? This is the only time where I've experienced anything in NFTs where I walk into a random place, a place that I've found joy and love in over the last, however long I've been in Singapore. And now I'm seeing my professional career, in some shape, way, or form displayed in this little gotcha machine. And that is where I think the immediate conversion comes. And then over the course of time, that will happen, incrementally every single day or every single week. And then when massive narratives to retail come in, Pudgy Penguins will already be there, top of mind. And then, they will come in and start collecting as well. So the funnel is a beautiful thing. I encourage everybody to study it. I've got some tweets on my page. You could probably see how I look at these things and how I break them down, but a huge fan of funnels. And I believe this is how people got to be looking at the stuff.
Yeah. And another interesting thing you hinted towards is the cultural transactions that David Horvath hints at. If you know him, he's a big advocate for cultural microtransactions. And that's exactly what you said about the Singapore arcade, finding an NFT native IP that lives in an environment that you are in love with and go to and has meaning for you is super impactful. So props to you for that. Um, Okay, couple things. Considering that time is running, I just want to have a quick throwback to the business models that you mentioned. How do you actually get tens of millions of dollars in grants as a business model?
Yeah, I think from again, what is Pudgy Penguins? Pudgy Penguins, in my opinion, is the face of consumer crypto. No one's doing consumer in crypto the way that I think we're doing it, in a way that is incredibly real and incredibly tangible. And again, most consumer applications in crypto are predicated around price going up and price going down. So you could say maybe Coinbase. Well, Coinbase is relevant when price is up and less relevant when price is down. I'm relevant in a way that is not predicated on speculation of financial assets. We are relevant in a way that I think crypto ultimately has to be, which is, back end solutions and value propositions to amazing front end products. And so I believe we're the face of that. And being the face of that, I think yields a lot of leverage. We have garnered a community that I think is second to none. We have garnered a a narrative around our brand that I think is second to none. And if you want to ride on the coattails of that narrative, you're more than welcome to, if it makes sense. But you got to pay us for it. And so, this is not us shilling, tokens or things like that. This is us just integrating our product lines into some of these amazing tech stacks. But these things are not going to be done for free. At the end of the day, we have toys and digital integrations that include blockchain in the world's biggest retailers. I mean, probably the two now, Walmart and Target. You've basically got the two most meaningful conglomerates to exist. We're getting billions of impressions and views across social every single month. These are just things that people in crypto are just not getting. And so if you want that value and if you want us to cross pollinate that value, I'm in the business of we have to make money because because without money, I think there's a plateau into how we can win. I told the team this, but I think we've hustled as much as you can hustle within the Rolodex. Now is the time to get funds through the door to make a meaningful impact, but we also don't want to be at the control of somebody else's mercy. And so you can obviously raise and do that strategically. You can do that through grants. You can obviously make money through deals, and we've got a really great and robust licensing pipeline, and the business is pretty self-sustaining. But I want to show the world what we can do with $50 million. I want to show the world what we can do with $100 million. I promise you, we set the bar, I think, in the industry, specifically in NFT land, what is possible with a very small treasure chest. I mean, the first year we had no money in the bank. The second year we raised $9 million. In comparison to the next guy, it's nothing. And we've set the bar, right? And I believe that was just a masterclass in what we know to do best. Wait till you see what we can do with 50 million bucks. I promise you, it's gonna leave a lot of people thinking as to why things are the way that they are, and why haven't people done the things that they were supposed to do. Because us with $50 million, we're gonna take over the world. I promise you that.
Love that. I well, you've been hustling. You have also made money in recent months with some grants and everything. So you have your also business model with your distribution and toys with money flowing in. So you've got all that treasury and resources and determination. What are you cooking that you want to announce here? Because by the time this airs, you're going to have announced a couple things. So can you tell us more about that and contextualize why it matters to holders?
I think Pudgy Penguins, by the time this launches, will be in Target, Big W, GameStop, a couple other places. There's more toy expansion, more proliferation of the IP, more royalties for holders whose penguins are licensed. Obviously, just signals more success of the brand. Some regions were succeeding, some regions were not. I'm going to keep experimenting and seeing which ones stick with the penguin IP. And so more expansion. We released Polar Plunge, which is an arcade machine that is distributing around major arcades around the country. Super excited to kind of have that come to fruition. It's also got some interesting blockchain integration, so be sure to kind of explore and see what that looks like. And we got some big partnerships. I think by the time this announces, we'll release our announcement with Lotte. Lotte is one of the biggest, probably the biggest South Korean conglomerate. Basically runs, everywhere in South Korea. You can see, kind of what Lotte looks like. And so really excited to get in the trench with them and activate in a big way in Korea. I'm a huge maxi of just the East. I love Asian culture. I love Asian people. So, and I think the Penguin really resonates over there. So really want to double down in that respect. I think there's a couple things, and then probably when this airs, will be a week or two away from a really big moment and a leap forward in the company. Really building and finalizing the stack on how to really create a flywheel that I think is really healthy and necessary for what we're trying to build, but ultimately gives us a little bit of edge going into the bull market. So this is, I very much have been saying it for a while, since the beginning of May, but it's a Penguin summer. It's going to kick off here. It's probably already kicking off as we're speaking about this, trying to get the community riled up. But it's going all the way until August. We'll probably take a month break in September and then just take over the winter like we did last year. And hopefully by the end of the year, we hit our goal, which is I would be really shocked not to be the number one NFT project in the world by the end of the year. I'd look at it in confusion, if I'm being frank.
Let's fucking go. I love this. And, you've been talking about consumer crypto as being an important narrative for 2024. And I couldn't agree more with what you guys are cooking, with what Doodles are cooking, with what Bazuki is cooking. Like, the year is whatever the price appreciation of the NFTs, the underlying NFTs is. This is the biggest year so far for NFTs and what is being achieved. So I'm really excited to participate in this. Would you say, based on what you outlined here, that strategically speaking, gaming and Asia are two strategic pillars for you in 2024?
Yeah, gaming, Asia, content, product proliferation, and you'll see what's coming soon. But we got something that's going to be a huge priority for some members in the company. Excited to announce more details on what this looks like.
All right, sounds good. Well, guys, we'll wrap this episode up then with that hint of alpha of what's coming. Excited when this airs to be a couple weeks from then and discover what you guys have been cooking. Thank you for your time, Luca. It was great talking to you.
Thanks for having me, Chris.